Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sides in the Garden. Today, I'm going to put together a moss basket, and I'm going to combine that with a lesson from In the Garden called Preparing the Garden, and it's lesson 8. So I'll post this little video, and there will also be an exercise sheet that I'll attach to it for students to learn more about the different parts of plants. So let's begin. Moss grows everywhere in Victoria. It's ideal conditions for moss growth here in this kind of temperate rainforest ecosystem. Moss likes moisture and lots of shade. And you'll find it growing in forests and in our parks. It grows on rocks and trees, but we would never, ever, ever harvest moss from these woodland environments or from parks. A lot of different creatures depend upon moss to survive. So we would never, never take moss from those areas. But moss also frequently grows on roofs, especially in a shaded treed area, or even on shaded parts of your driveway, or perhaps on logs that you might have in your backyard. And I think with permission, you could harvest moss from those areas. My neighbor had a new roof put on, and part of his roof had a lot of moss growth. So I asked if I could have that moss, because otherwise it was going to be destroyed. And he was generous enough to give it to me. So I thought I'd put together a moss basket. I have one of these frames. You can buy them anywhere. They used to sell them at the dollar store. I don't know if they still do. I haven't been to a dollar store in a long time. I know that they sell them at Walmart, garden centers, many, many different places. So that's what we'll start with. We'll start with that, the frame. Now I want to show you a basket from previous years. And this is usually what people will line the basket with. Rather than moss, they use this this material that I believe is made from coconut shells and ground up, and it's actually works quite well for this purpose. And as you can see, if you can see here, there is already moss that's starting to grow on this, and right here as well. That green stuff there, that's moss. It's just grown on its own right on this, this lining. So that's a good alternative if you don't have moss. So here we go. This is the beautiful moss. Look at that. It's so lovely, lush. So what you need to do is pick a part of the moss for your base, for the actual bottom. And you just start to build it up. It's really quite simple. Here's a big, huge piece that I'm gonna put right in here. Just press it down. Make sure there's no gaps in there for the soil to come out. There we go. More. So there, once you have the shell lined with the moss, then you can start putting in your soil. Now, I know some people, when they make these baskets, will put something in here that'll help the water stay in the basket. So sometimes I've heard of people using coffee filters and lining the inside of the moss with coffee filters before they put the soil in, to ensure that the water stays in the basket longer, because moss enjoys being moist. If you hang your basket in a sunny area, your moss basket in a sunny area, it will, over time with sun, of course, dry out and get very brown and dead looking, but it's not actually dead. And once it returns to a moister, shadier environment over the winter, it'll come back green and lush again. So moss is very resilient. So let's add the soil. I'm not going to try and put any kind of filter in there because I did buy this potting soil that's specially designed for hanging baskets, and it's got material in it that will help the soil retain water. But really, as long as you're attentive to your basket and you water it regularly, it'll be fine, no matter what kind of soil you use. So we'll put a few scoops of this in. Here. So there's the soil in there, and what I'm going to do is just press it into the bottom and along the sides. This gives the basket some structure. And I'll do this as I add more and more soil. There, see, it's starting to take shape. Add a bit more. So of course, you'll have to decide what kind of plants you're going to put in your moss basket. There are many, many shade plants that provide color in shady areas, so you could always use those. But you could also plant more sun-loving plants in your moss basket. As I said, if it's in the sun, it may tend to dry out and go brown, but it will come back in the fall and winter when we have less sun and more moist conditions here. So there we go, building it up. I'm going to put a bit more soil in. It's surprising how much soil these small baskets will take. And remember, once you water this soil, it's going to shrink down. So even though it looks as though you may have too much soil, in fact, you probably don't. When you water it, it will shrink down considerably. Okay, so there you have your base. And now we're going to add some plants. And I have a variety of plants. This is a ranunculus. It's more of a spring plant. These plants will continue to thrive all summer, as will these. These are a hanging variety of plant, which is nice if you decide, instead of putting your moss basket on a table, that you're going to hang it somewhere. In that case, it would be nice to have these sorts of plants to spill over the side. This is a little ivy. Again, it'll trail down over the side of the basket, as will this plant and this one. So I think I'll put this ranunculus right in the middle. There's probably more plants here than I'm going to use in the basket. It's good to have a full basket, but you have to allow for the fact that plants will grow over the summer. So I'm just going to carefully remove this plant from its little container, and you see all these roots. Roots are very, very important to any plant because roots help anchor the plant to the soil so wind and rain can't wash it away. It also is, these roots are the mechanism whereby water and nutrients from the soil work their way up in to feed the plant. So when you first take the plant out of the container, the roots have sort of wrapped themselves around, and you want to loosen that up so that the roots have a chance to spread out in your soil. So I'm going to put this right in the middle. Just a matter of digging a hole and ensuring that all the root of the plant is buried right in the soil. And we'll just push it down on either side and move some soil over top. Just like that. Now, from the soil level up to where you see this bloom is the stem of the plant. And the stem of the plant allows the plant to grow tall and stand up from the ground that it's growing in. And it also provides a way for the nutrients and the water in the soil to get to the flowering part of the plant as well as the leaves. So here we have a little plant that's going to spill over the side of our moss basket as it grows. Again, you want to just loosen up the soil. I'm just going to do it over here. And then we'll just plant it right beside this one, like so. There. Very nice. Okay. And then I want to put this ivy in too, because it will look wonderful in the summer as it spills over the side of the basket. There we go. I've exposed the roots and we'll plant it right in here. Oops. And this is another lovely plant that will spill over. It'll have little white flowers all over it. It's quite lovely. Another very important part of a plant is the flower. And the flower, the color and the fragrance of the flower attracts bees and birds and other pollinators. And they help to reproduce the plant by spreading the pollen. Also, flowers will turn into fruit in the case of plants that produce fruit. And that fruit, of course, feeds lots of animals, including us humans. And the fruit contains the seeds of the plants to be. So this particular plant will produce seeds, and those will be carried off by birds or by the wind, and more ranunculus will grow. Okay, so we'll put this one in. Maybe we'll, yeah, I guess right here would be the best spot. Now, another thing you could do with your hanging basket or your moss basket, you don't necessarily have to hang it, is that in these little areas between the wire support here, you can put plants in there as well. You can just make a hole and make sure all the root of whatever plant you put in there reaches into the soil, and then you would just pack the moss around it, and then the plant, rather than growing from the top and spilling over, will grow from the side or the bottom or anywhere you want to put them. And you can certainly do that with these as well. These coconut husk liners. You can just open that up and stick a little plant in there, and over the summer it'll spill out and grow roots. Maybe I'll put one more and call that enough. One more in here. Sure. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is take a little extra soil and just put it all around the plants that you just put in this basket. There we go. There. So here we have a lovely moss basket. And you can, as I said, you can display it on a table outdoors, or you can hang it. Usually there's a chain hanger that comes with this, this particular wire basket frame, but you could also make one from rope or whatever you have handy. Remember that these have to be very well watered initially, and then you have to ensure that the moss is kept moist. So that's it. That's how to make a flowering basket, whether you use moss or some other material to line your basket, or you can buy a basket that's just made from plastic, so you don't need to line it. But moss baskets are beautiful. So if you find some moss that's growing in some corner of your yard or on a roof, moss is not good for roofs, or even in your driveway. I've harvested moss from a corner of my driveway that was very damp and shady, and I just peeled it off and lined one of these metal frames with the moss and made a moss basket that way. So I will post this video along with lesson 8 on parts of plants. So I'm hoping that you'll watch the video, maybe try your hand at putting together a flowering basket yourselves, and also complete that lesson and learn a little bit about the different parts of plants. So thanks very much. Enjoy the lovely weather, and I'll see you next time. Bye.